Today we're going to cover the geography of Greece. In today's lesson we are going to cover where is Greece located in the world. We're also going to talk about the main waterways of Greece. We're going to discuss the farming and livestock of Greece. We're going to move on to the volcanic zone of Greece, and then we're going to wrap up today's lesson with the effects that the geography of Greece had on Greece itself and the rest of the world. So let's start today with where is Greece. You have the United States where we are right now. You cross the Atlantic Ocean, you get to Spain and France first, then you cross Italy, and you got Greece. Greece hangs down into the Mediterranean Sea. On the west is the Ionian Sea, and on the east is the Aegean Sea. So, let's begin today's lesson with where is Greece. It's 1,500 miles from England. Its capital city is Athens, Greece, and it sits on the European continent. The main waterways of Greece. Off mainland Greece, there are 2,000 different islands that make up the area of Greece. You have three major seas, which I've already pointed out on the globe: the Ionian, the Aegean, and the Mediterranean Seas. The largest island of the 2,000 is Crete. Crete will spend some time a little bit later on when we talk about the Minoans, and we'll come back to Crete at that point. Let's move on in the lesson to farming and livestock. Good land and a reliable water source was actually difficult to find. Remember when we talked about vocab? The hills, that is the reason that good land was hard to find. Reliable water source, although they had all those seas and a large area of water, it was actually hard to find because for farmland was away from the water, and there wasn't much water inside mainland Greece. Also, flat land was and still is very rare to have in Greece. The idea of the hills is very hilly, it's very mountainy, so that idea of flat land was and is still very rare. What animals did they have? They had mules, they had donkeys, they had goats, and they had sheep. A lot of animals that we're not very familiar with here in the United States, but Greece prides itself on. It prides itself on the idea of having such livestock as mules, donkeys, goats, and sheep. Let's move on to a volcano zone. Surprisingly, Greece sits between the European and the African tectonic plates. It's known for its volcanoes and its common earthquakes. Now, we don't hear a lot about Greece having volcanoes and earthquakes, but they have a lot of volcanoes and earthquakes that kind of spur up from time to time quite frequently. So the idea of a volcanic zone in Greece, it spurs up quite frequently, quite commonly. Let's move on to the effects that geography had on Greece and the rest of the world. It is difficult to conquer by land due to the amount of hills and the amount of mountains that Greece had. It made it very difficult for people to conquer by land. The only real way that they could get to Greece, was by water. And they honestly had to island jump from one island to another to be able to get all their boats and all their transportation to mainland Greece. They relied on the sea for food and trade. Food, you know, you can get just about any fish out of the waterway, so food was an easy part for them to have access to. Trade, they could trade with every little area or every little territory around them due to the amount of water that they had. They could simply grab the boats that they needed, which we'll talk about a little bit later, and go from one area to another and trade with who they needed to by the water. Small communities, all those 2,000 islands that we have already talked about, did not communicate with each other. As a result, they were isolated. They didn't rely on anybody except for mainland Greece for business and economic concerns. So today, we have talked about where Greece is located in the world. We have talked about volcanic zones. We have talked about farming and livestock and what animals they had in ancient Greece and in modern day Greece. We have talked about the main waterways of Greece, and we have talked about the effects that the geography of Greece had on Greece and the rest of the world. This is the Geography of Greece lesson for today.